What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine hike. Said the buy something that feels something, and today we have another review on our hands. For today's review, we are taking a look at Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series pre-Vizsla, a figure I've personally been waiting for a while now, especially since we got the Death Watch Mandalorian, and here he is. I have him in my collection, and obviously we are taking a look at him today. So at any point during or after the video you do realize you want to pick up this figure for yourself, you can get him for $24.99 off of Hasbro Pulse themselves, GameStop, Walmart, Entertainment Earth, and Amazon, surprisingly. And for an extra $1 for $25.99, you can get them off of the Big Bad Toy Store. But strangely enough, there is no listing for pre-Vizsla on the Target website, nor have I found any pre-Vizsla figures in Target in person. So I don't know what Target's doing when it comes to pre-Vizsla, because usually they're on top of the Black Series, at least for their online listings. So if at any point, after this video is released, that Target does add them to the website, I will, edit that in the description. But as for everything else, there will be links in the description of this video, so if you do want to pick up this figure for yourself, you can. But with that all being said, let's get into the video. And with the release of this figure, we have the classic Black Series packaging back in action, and it is still looking good as ever. We can see the figure with everything included. On the side of the packaging, we have some nice artwork of pre-Vizsla, and then switching over to the back, we have that same piece of artwork and a brief description of what pre-Vizsla is all about. So again, glad to see this packaging back in action, looking good as ever. And with all that said, let's get into opening up this bad boy. And starting in the head region, we can rotate the head 360 degrees, which is always really nice to see. And then we can have our figure look up and down a really good amount. I'm loving the range there, so nice to see that there. And then when it comes to the head tilt, it isn't exactly much. It's very subtle, but it is there nonetheless. And even with that range not being all there with the head tilt, because he can look up and down so well and rotate his head 360 degrees, you can still have him look around in a variety of positions, so he can express himself through head movements really well. So very happy with the head articulation. Then looking at the arms, we can rotate the arms 360 degrees, which is really nice to see. And then when it comes to bringing up his arms, we can do that an okay amount, which means we can open up his arms an okay amount as well. And then moving down from there to the elbow bend, it isn't exactly the best. It kind of, it doesn't break or go above the 90-degree mark. And in my opinion, if the elbow can bring up the forearm past 90 degrees, it's a good elbow bend. And then we can rotate the elbow and the forearm 360 degrees, and I'm pretty sure you can rotate the forearm independently from the elbow, but because of the wires there, I would not recommend it, because you don't want those to rip. And when it comes to the hand, you can rotate the wrist 360 degrees and bend it however you please, so very nice to see that there. And overall, I have mixed feelings about the arm articulation on this figure. And then when it comes to the torso, we can rotate the torso 360 degrees, which is always nice to see. And then as for the crunch or lack of there being, there is a back and forth movement with his torso. It's by no means a crunch, but it's there, and it is recognized, so it is what it is. And with the leg articulation, we can rotate the legs 360 degrees, which is always nice to see. And then when it comes to the splits, by no means is it a full split. It's about half of a split, but it's still wide enough to get a variety of action poses and display options for your figure. And then we can bring up the legs so you can have them sit on a chair or the ledge of a cliff or whatever you want them to sit on. And then when it comes to the knee bend, it is really good. You can get them to do a butt kick, so you can have them in running poses, and again a variety of action poses. So very happy with the knee bend on this figure. And then moving down from that, we can rotate the feet 360 degrees and bend the ankle however we please, so you can have him balance himself when put him in the variety of poses. And overall, very happy with the leg articulation on this figure. And then for my overall thoughts on the articulation for this figure, I'm very happy with the articulation and range in the head and legs of the figure. When it comes to the torso, it's standard Black Series articulation. I do wish we can get more out of the torso when it comes to our figure, moving back and forth. I wish we can get more of a crunch, but it is what it is. It's again standard torso articulation for the Black Series figures. And then when it comes to the arms, for the most part, I do enjoy the range and articulation in the arm region. It's just when it comes to the elbow bend, I'm a little disappointed, because I wish the forearms can go past 90 degrees. I usually like it when the forearms can do that, but because this figure uses an older mold and the gauntlet clashes with the tricep bicep area, that is not possible. And looking at his apparel first, and of course we have the helmet. It's just like any other Black Series helmet. You just pop it on nice and easy, and it fits on nice and snug. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall off anytime soon, which is really nice. And obviously if you want to take it off, you just pull it off with ease. It's like any other Black Series helmet, like I said. So yeah, I don't feel like I need to further explain how this works. And then we have his jetpack, which works like any other Black Series jetpack. You just put the shapes into the shape holes and it fits on nice and snug. Doesn't feel like it's coming off anytime soon, which is really nice to see. And then getting into the functionality of it, the rocket on top is removable, so you can have it look like he fired that rocket at some point, which is really nice. And then the thrusters are adjustable, so if you really want to look like he's moving through the air, you can do that. And you can take these flame thruster effects from the episode 6 Boba Fett deluxe figure, and you can plug them into Vizsla's jetpack, which I really like how they thought of that. And then getting into the weapons included with our figure, and we have 2 Westar 35 blasters, because what Death Watch Mandalorian didn't have these during the Clone Wars. And for the visual presentation of these weapons, we do have them painted in all gray. And as far as the sculpt goes, Hasbro actually went for the live action route of the Westar 35s, because in the Clone Wars series it has a pretty minimalistic and very sleek design with not a lot going on, and that is the reference I am using in the bottom corner. But looking at the figures at Westar 35s, these are more in tune with the live action version, which has a lot more going on. So I have to give Hasbro props for going down the route that required more effort, and overall I like how they look. And I almost completely forgot to mention the blaster holsters that are included with this figure. They're on his armor, in his thigh area, and you just slide them in and they're easy to take out. So if you want him to hold something but keep his pistols on him, or you just want him to hold one blaster pistol instead of both of them, you do have these holsters for that reason. And then for the second weapon included, we do have the dark saber, which is looking all nice and snazzy. I really like the sleek, minimalistic look of the blade. I know it's a lot more busy looking on screen, but I do like how they executed it here. And then the sculpt for the handle looks great. I love the hilt. I love all the lines and everything that they got down. I have no complaints about this accessory's visual presentation whatsoever. And like every other Black Series lightsaber, you can take the blade off, so you can just have the handle in the figure's hand, so it looks like they're in a more passive state. And obviously you can plug the blade back in, so I thought that was very neat to see. And if you want to keep the darksaber on him and not in his hand though, you can attach it to his jetpack and it fits nice and snug like this. Personally, I feel like you should flip it the other way so the handle is pointing up, but it doesn't really fit all that well. If you do it that way, it does come off pretty easily. It is possible, but you're supposed to have it the other way to keep it nice and secure. And I thought it was really cool that they included that little feature for the jetpack and the darksaber. So if you haven't bought this figure already, one thing that I think should be made clear is that this figure does reuse the old Jango Fett mold that we saw way back when, which in hindsight makes some kind of sense, because if you look at Jango Fett and Vizsla's appearance, they have a lot in common when it comes to their base Mandalorian armor. And then their obvious differences in designs are their helmets, their belt, holster and thigh armor, their jetpack designs, and of course their color palettes. And then moving on from comparisons to giving Vizsla our fully undivided attention about his visual presentation, and he looks good. We can tell from his face. This is when we see him later on in the Clone Wars, right around when Maul starts showing up, and he looks great. The printing looks great, nothing wrong, nothing looks off. He looks like a human being. And then moving away from his head and looking at the rest of his body, he just looks great. I love the sculpt work, I love the paint work, the metal looks like metal, the cloth looks like cloth, especially with the wrinkles and all that. Everything just looks great and looks like what it's supposed to be. So I'm not really gonna go in depth. I'm gonna keep it nice and simple and leave it at that. So I mean, y'all also have eyes and you can see that this figure looks great. I don't really need to convince you. You can form your own opinions and all that. And let's put Vizsla into scale with some size comparisons, and I actually want to start off with some more abnormally sized Black Series figures for those who commonly collect the Black Series. And starting off, we have the Gaming Greats Republic Commando Battle Droid, Gaming Greats Jedi Survivor KX Security Droid, a Death Trooper, a Dark Trooper, Chrysanthemum, and finally, we have Wrecker. Then for non-Black Series figures, we have NECA's Aliens Xenomorph Warrior and Predator 2 Elder aka Greyback. Then we have Jazzwares Halo the Spartan Collection Halo 5 Guardians Master Chief. Jazzwares is the World of Halo Halo Infinite Master Chief. And finally, we have McFarlane's The Doomslayer. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video. This is pretty much where I go over what I like, dislike, pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, give my general thoughts and opinions, and give you all something to bounce off of, and go down in the comment section below and get that conversation started, and I'll most likely reply to y'all's comments, because obviously I like talking about this stuff. And for my reoccurring viewers, you know what I'm going to talk about first, and for those who don't know, I like talking about the sour stuff, the stuff that I kind of don't like about the figure, because I don't like dwelling on the negatives longer than I have to. And honestly, there's only two things that come to mind, and I'll get the lesser evil out of the way first, and that is the torso articulation and the lack of crunch there is, because I do enjoy the 360-degree spin, and I do recognize there is a back and forth motion you can get out of them, but I do wish that you can get more of a crunch out of your figure. And this is something that I've seen with a lot of, action figures, not just the Black series, and it's something that I've definitely complained about with Jazz wears figures, because there's no torso articulation, and I sometimes see it in NECA figures. So I know it isn't just Hasbro, and I know that these are figures, these are plastic, they're not organic living things that can just move at like however they want. There are restrictions, but I do just wish we can get more of a crunch out of the torso of this figure. And then the second thing that is the bigger issue in my opinion is the elbow articulation and how restrictive it is, in my opinion, because I believe that if the forearm can't go above 90 degrees, it's not exactly the best elbow articulation. I always prefer if my forearm can go above that 90-degree mark. So seeing that this figure can't do it kind of bums me out. I get that this is an older figure, or at least it's an older sculpt that this figure is using, and that the gauntlet might be clashing with the tricep bicep area, but I still just wish that we can bring our forearm up a little bit more, especially seeing that the Death Watch Mandalorian, ironically enough, that came out earlier this year or late last year, they can bring their forearm above the 90-degree mark, and this figure can't. So it just kind of sucks to see, especially because the range of the elbow bend on a figure can really determine what kind of poses and what kind of accessories they can interact with. So the worse the elbow articulation, the less they could do, the better, the more they could do. So it just kind of bums me out to see that. But to get into the positives, and there's a silver lining with the articulation, and that is most of the body articulates well. The head feels great, the legs feel great, and it's just the elbows in the arm. Everything else in the arms feels great, and I do like how we can get that 360 spin out of our figure's torso. It's just I do wish we can get some more crunch action. So most of the body, or most of the articulation, does feel good. And then after articulation, I feel like they nailed the visual presentation of Vizsla. He looks great. I have no complaints whatsoever. Like I said in the visual presentation segment, I feel like everything that they wanted to get down, they got down amazingly. And then after visual presentation, I feel like the accessory selection is great. Obviously, Westar blasters have to be included with our boy, seeing that every Mandalorian in the Clone Wars show used one. And then obviously Vizsla is going to get the darksaber, seeing how much he wanted it and used it throughout the Clone Wars show as well. And then one thing that I found really neat is if you do have the Return of the Jedi Deluxe Boba Fett figure, and that came with all the effects and the accessories and all that, you can use the jetpack flame effects on Vizsla's jetpack as well, and I'm pretty sure you can use it on any other figure that comes with a jetpack now. So I really like how they thought that out, and it feels like a little bonus thing that allows you to get more mileage out of your figure. So if you do have that one figure, you can use it on other figures as well. I kind of wish that the flame effects were standard. They're kind of small. I don't see what's stopping Hasbro from doing that, but I do think it's cool that they thought this out nonetheless. And that's pretty much everything I have to add to this figure, what I like, dislike, and obviously the entire review before this segment. So if you have this figure already, please tell me, and what do you like or dislike about said figure. Do I recommend this figure? Absolutely. This figure looks amazing. Most of the articulation is great, and it has a solid accessory selection, so there's a lot more positives than negatives. The positives outweigh the negatives by a metric ton. So yes, I do recommend this figure if you can pick them up. I have links in the description of the video, so if you do want to pick up this figure online, you can do that. And with all that said, let's move on to the outro. So if you enjoyed today's video, a like and a subscription would be phenomenal. You don't have to comment, I get it, it's a lot of effort moving your fingers, but if you do want to bounce off anything I did say in the video, you're more than welcome to go down and get that conversation started, and I'll most likely reply to y'all's comments, because obviously I like talking about this stuff. And don't worry about the bell, we both know that shit is broken. And if you want to see more content like this, there's plenty of it up on the channel. I have a plethora of Star Wars stuff already covered. I also do Halo stuff and NECA stuff as well, mostly Alien and Predator stuff in the realm of NECA. So if any of that does interest you, you're more than welcome to go check it out. With all that being said, please have a nice day and stay hydrated. It's important.